on the 28th of October 2025, a constant stream of colossal ships glides through the heart of Panama. They carry the lifeblood of our global economy. This 50-mile stretch of water is more than a marvel of engineering. It is a prize. It is a strategic asset, over which nations and corporations have quietly vied for more than a century. The Panama Canal cuts thousands of miles and many days from ocean voyages. This simple fact makes it one of the most critical commercial arteries on the planet. Whoever holds influence over this slender waterway holds a degree of influence over the rhythm of global trade itself. The stakes are immense, and they are ever present. The canal is a choke point. It is a narrow passage that funnels a vast amount of the world's maritime traffic. The goods that fill our shops, the fuel that powers our cars, the grain that feeds nations. Any disruption, whether from political instability, climate change, or conflict, sends immediate shockwaves through global supply chains. Insurance premiums would soar. Shipping schedules would collapse. The cost of everyday goods would rise for consumers thousands of miles away. The strategic importance of the Panama Canal is rooted in simple geography. It offers a dramatic shortcut. A ship traveling from New York to San Francisco must journey over 13,000 miles around the tip of South America. That same journey through the canal is just over 5,000 miles. This saves weeks of travel time. This saves vast amounts of fuel. This saves significant operational costs. For the world of international trade, where time is money, this shortcut is not just a convenience. It is a fundamental pillar of the global logistics network. It allows for faster delivery of goods. It allows for more efficient use of vessels. It allows for more predictable supply chains, electronics, automobiles. This waterway is also a critical conduit for energy resources. Tankers carrying liquefied natural gas from the United States Gulf Coast can reach markets in Asia far more quickly and cheaply by transiting the canal. This has reshaped global energy maps. The story of the Panama Canal is inextricably linked to the birth of Panama itself. At the dawn of the 20th century, the isthmus was a province of Colombia. The United States, under the ambitious leadership of President Theodore Roosevelt, was determined to build a transoceanic canal. A French attempt had already failed, but Washington saw the project as vital for its emergence as a global power. It would connect its eastern and western coast, project naval strength, and expand American commercial reach. When negotiations with Colombia for the rights to build the canal stalled, the United States chose a more direct and forceful path. In November 1903, a small group of Panamanian separatists declared independence from Colombia. This was no spontaneous uprising. It was actively encouraged and supported by the United States. American warships, including the USS Nashville, were strategically positioned offshore. Their presence was a clear signal, effectively preventing Colombian forces from landing to suppress the rebellion. The revolution was swift and almost bloodless. For much of the 20th century, the Panama Canal Zone was a world apart from the Republic of Panama. It was an administered territory of the United States. Police force, court system, post offices, schools. Americans living in the zone, known as Zonians, enjoyed a high standard of living, often in stark contrast to their Panamanian neighbors. Although thousands of Panamanians worked on the canal, they were typically in lower-paying jobs and subject to a discriminatory wage system. This visible inequality steadily fueled national resentment. The canal zone was more than an economic entity. It was a powerful symbol of Panama's incomplete sovereignty. The Panamanian flag was not permitted to fly alongside the American flag in the zone. Panamanians could not move freely through the 10-mile-wide strip that bisected their country. This division was a source of humiliation and frustration. Over decades, this coalesced into a potent nationalist movement. Students, intellectuals, labor unions. Tensions erupted at times into open conflict. The most significant was Martyrs' Day, January 1964. A dispute over flying the Panamanian flag at a high school in the Canal Zone escalated into riots that lasted 3 days. Panamanian students marching peacefully were met with resistance from Zonians and police. The ensuing clashes killed over 20 Panamanians and several American soldiers. The event sent shockwaves through Panama and drew international attention. It hardened Panamanians' resolve and showed the treaty was unsustainable. The events of 1964 forced both nations to confront deep problems. For Panama, it was a national tragedy that galvanized the quest for sovereignty. For the United States, it was a warning that force could not maintain its position. Political pressure for a new arrangement became immense. The era of unquestioned American dominance was drawing to a close. Negotiating a new treaty to eventually return the canal to Panama had become unavoidable. The push for a new treaty gained unstoppable momentum in the 1970s, championed by Panama's charismatic and forceful leader, General Omar Torrijos. He framed the canal issue as a matter of national dignity and justice, rallying support at home, rallying support across Latin America. Torrijos called the 1903 treaty a colonial relic with no place in the modern world. In the United States, a different kind of leader emerged, President Jimmy Carter. Carter was guided by a foreign policy that emphasized human rights and respect for national sovereignty. He saw the need for a fundamental change in the U.S.-Panama relationship. He believed a partnership based on mutual respect beat holding onto a colonial-era possession. Negotiations were complex and politically fraught. In the US, the idea of giving away the canal met fierce opposition. Critics said the canal was vital to American security. They also argued it had been paid for with American money and ingenuity. The debate was emotional and deeply divisive. Proponents countered that handing over the canal best ensured its future security and neutrality. They argued a friendly, stable Panama would be a better guardian of the waterway than a resentful population under American military occupation. After years of diplomacy, Torrijos and Carter signed two treaties in Washington, D.C. on the 7th September 1977. Image: the signing, Torrijos and Carter shaking hands after signing the Panama Canal treaties in 1977. Even as the treaties set a course for a peaceful handover, the relationship between the United States and Panama remained complex and shadowed by intrigue. During the Cold War, Panama was a critical hub for American intelligence operations in Latin America. The U.S. had long engaged in covert activities throughout the region to counter Soviet influence and support friendly regimes. Panama's strategic location made it a natural base for such operations. This created a murky world of secret alliances and clandestine dealings. One of the key figures in this world was Manuel Noriega, a Panamanian military officer who rose through the ranks. For many years, General Noriega was a valuable asset for the Central Intelligence Agency. He provided intelligence on Cuba and other leftist movements in the region. In return, he received payments and cultivated powerful connections within the U.S. government. However, as Noriega consolidated his power in Panama during the 1980s, he became an increasingly ruthless dictator. He was deeply involved in drug trafficking, money laundering, and political repression. His double dealing became an embarrassment and a liability for the United States. The relationship that had been nurtured in the shadows began to sour dramatically as his abuses became too flagrant to ignore. The breaking point came in the late 1980s. The United States indicted Noriega on drug trafficking charges and imposed crippling economic sanctions on Panama in an effort to force him from power. The tension escalated until December 1989, when President George H.W. Bush ordered a full-scale military invasion of Panama, codenamed Operation Just Cause. The stated goals were to protect American lives, restore democracy, safeguard the canal treaties, and bring Noriega to justice. In a swift and overwhelming assault, thousands of U.S. troops descended on the country, quickly overpowering the Panamanian defense forces. The invasion was successful in its primary military objectives. Noriega was captured, taken to the United States, and later convicted on drug charges. a new democratically elected government was installed in Panama. As the United States' direct political and military role in Panama receded after the 1999 handover, a new global power began to cast a long shadow over the canal: China. Driven by its insatiable need for resources and its ambition to become the world's leading trading nation, Beijing has methodically expanded its economic footprint across Latin America. The Panama Canal, as the gateway between the Atlantic and Pacific, is a jewel in this strategic expansion. China is now the second largest user of the canal, and its interest goes far beyond simply paying tolls to pass its ships through. It is a long-term play for commercial and logistical influence. This influence is most visible in the ports at either end of the canal. Chinese-linked companies have secured long-term contracts to operate and develop key container terminals in Colon on the Atlantic side, Balboa on the Pacific. This gives them a significant stake in the logistics ecosystem that surrounds the canal. By controlling these critical nodes, they can shape shipping routes, offer preferential treatment to Chinese vessels, integrate Panamanian ports into China's vast global supply chain network. These investments are often framed as purely commercial ventures, part of China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative. Beyond the ports, China's engagement in Panama extends to a wide range of other projects. There has been talk of Chinese financing for a fourth set of locks for the canal, new rail lines, energy projects, technological infrastructure. This deepening economic relationship provides Panama with much-needed investment and development opportunities. However, it also raises strategic concerns in Washington. The United States has grown increasingly wary of what it sees as China's debt-trap diplomacy and the potential for commercial assets to be leveraged for political or even military purposes in the future. The competition between the United States and China for influence in Panama represents the new secret war for the canal. It is a contest fought not with soldiers, but with shipping containers, construction cranes, and billion-dollar loans. The United States, which once held absolute control, now finds itself urging Panama to be cautious of China's embrace, warning of the risks to transparency and long-term sovereignty. For its part, Panama must perform a delicate balancing act, seeking to benefit from Chinese investment without alienating its traditional partner, the United States, or compromising its own independence. So, yeah, it's a tricky balance. The contemporary struggle for influence over the Panama Canal is a subtle and multifaceted game of geopolitical chess. The pieces on the board are no longer just warships, but port concessions, fiber optic cables, and trade agreements. The United States, China, and other global actors are all vying for advantage in a contest where economic leverage is paramount. The US seeks to maintain its position as the preeminent partner for security and democracy in the region, reminding Panama of their long shared history and the security guarantees that America still provides for the canal's neutrality. China, in contrast, plays a different game. It wields its immense economic power as its primary tool of statecraft. By becoming an indispensable trade and investment partner, Beijing builds deep dependencies that can translate into political influence over time. This includes investments in digital infrastructure, such as 5G networks, which carry their own set of strategic implications for data security and intelligence. The competition is also playing out in the diplomatic sphere, as both superpowers court Panamanian leaders, offering different visions of partnership and development. This places Panama in a powerful but precarious position, able to leverage the rivalry for its own benefit, but also at risk of getting caught in the middle. Furthermore, the nature of the canal itself is changing. Climate change has introduced a new and unpredictable variable. Severe droughts in recent years have lowered the water levels in the lakes that feed the canal's locks, forcing authorities to impose transit restrictions and reduce the number of ships that can pass through each day. This environmental vulnerability has exposed a critical weakness in this vital trade artery. The search for solutions, whether through new water management projects or the exploration of alternative routes, has become a new front in the strategic competition as nations seek to secure the future of their supply chains. This modern contest is also about perception and narrative. The United States frames the issue as a choice between a transparent, rules-based partnership and an opaque, debt-driven relationship with an authoritarian state. China presents its involvement as a win-win partnership, offering development without the political strings that it claims come with Western aid. For Panama, navigating these competing narratives is a daily challenge. The decisions its leaders make regarding port contracts, technological standards, and diplomatic alignments will have profound consequences, shaping not only the future of the canal but also the broader balance of power in the Western Hemisphere. The stakes are huge. In the final analysis, the Panama Canal remains far more than a simple shortcut between two oceans. It is a barometer of global power, how nations rise and fall, how empires give way to new spheres of influence, how small nations can find agency amidst the ambitions of giants. The secret war for the canal has never truly ended. It has merely evolved. The overt military dominance of the 20th century has been replaced by the more subtle, yet no less intense, economic and diplomatic competition of the 21st. The prize remains the same, a measure of control over a vital artery of world commerce. Today, the canal stands at the confluence of several major global trends. It is a focal point for the strategic rivalry, United States, China. It is a case study in the challenges of managing critical infrastructure in an era of climate change. It is a testament to the enduring power of geography in a world that often seems borderless. Panama City, Beijing, Washington, influencing everything from the price of consumer goods to the deployment of naval fleets. For Panama, its stewardship of the canal is both a great responsibility and its greatest geopolitical asset. The nation has successfully managed and even expanded this vital resource, turning it into a powerful engine for its own prosperity. Its continued challenge is to maintain its neutrality and independence while navigating the immense pressures exerted by competing world powers. The canal's concrete locks and placid waters are the stage for a great power drama that is still unfolding. The story is not over. The hidden war for the world's most important shortcut continues, and its outcome will help define the shape of the world to come. So yeah, keep watching.